Hey everyone, it's Rebecca and Alex. We're here to talk about homeopathy today on the Farm Animal and Homeopathy page. And today's topic is kind of an interesting one. We're going to talk about nausea and vomiting. We see this happen a lot with animals, and we get a lot of phone calls about it. Sometimes it's acute, sometimes it's chronic. Sometimes it's caused by eating too much grass. Sometimes it's caused by eating too much food or the wrong food, or all kinds of different things. Sometimes it's illness as well. So we thought we'd cover a few remedies. Hi, Alex. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Oh, good. So
Yes.
let's see if I can make the magic happen and share the screen. That's always
It's always interesting.
It is, right? There we go. Okay. So today is nausea and vomiting and homeopathy. So we gave this some consideration, just thinking about the different animals, how this impacts them, because we, try to focus on animals and how we can support our patrons of the group, and there are many pets and farm animals and so on. And so there are a few pictures here. I think anybody that has cats and dogs is probably really used to dealing with this, at least the cleanup. It's the least favorite thing that I like to wake up to in the morning. I don't know about you. And my husband said yesterday, as the cat was clawing a new chair that I have, that it's the second sound that you least want to hear in the middle of the night. The vomiting being the first one. Like, nothing wakes you up faster than hearing vomiting in the middle of the night. So I'm sure that everybody on here has experienced it on some level or another. And the first remedy that we're going to talk about is arsenicum. Alex, what would you like to share about this today?
So this is a remedy that I believe that anyone that has animals should have on hand at all times, I would say, because it's the first remedy that you should go to in case a cat or a dog or a horse, but usually, whatever animal starts vomiting, and you start suspecting that it might be poisoning. And poisoning can be from poison that people put out for the foxes. It can be poison that people put out for rats. It can be poison that people use as fertilizers. It can be pesticides. It can be anything.
It could also be something that they're not supposed to eat, that even though it's food for another animal, it could be toxic for that particular animal as well.
So, of course, we always go to the same mantra. We have to take the case and individualize. But if there is a suspicion of any chemical poison, this is the first remedy you should go to. And what you will see is vomiting. It can be vomiting and diarrhea as well. Sometimes it can be the case. And the animal, you have two extremes. Either the animal will be very restless, keep on moving from place to place to place to place, or it's going to be totally exhausted and prostrated. And nevertheless, even if it is very prostrated, the mind will keep on racing. Of course, with an animal, it's difficult to tell, but there will be a sense of restlessness in their aura. And they will be thirsty, but it will be thirsty for just a few sips and stop, and then a few sips, so little and often. And yes, the vomit can be all sorts with arsenicum. It can be green, yellow, bitter. Of course, we don't know, or sour, but it can be very stinky. And in some cases, if the poisoning was intense, we can even see blood, either on the vomiting or on the stool.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that we have to bear in mind is if it is chemical poison, or if the animal is restless, and or if there is thirst for little and often.
Mm-hmm. Clearly arsenicum, if that's the case. And just in your experience, where would you start with a potency in that respect? If it was poison, if you knew that an animal got into poison, would you start high, or would you still start with the 30C?
Well, it depends. If the animal vomited and then, in 2 hours vomits again, usually I go with a 30C. And the best way to dose for arsenicum or any other remedy when there is vomiting or diarrhea, it's every time the animal vomits, you dose him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So as the animal improves, of course, the dosing gets less and less until it does not need it anymore.
Right.
Now, if there is a violent reaction, you go 200 or you go 1M.
Right.
High and very frequent.
Right.
You don't want, there is also a case, actually, which comes to arsenicum, where with dogs in particular, that are very, when they eat something, they jump over the counter and they eat something with artificial sweeteners like aspartame or xylitol.
Yeah.
It's
stevia.
It's highly toxic to dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know that happened, you don't even wait for the dog to start vomiting. You start dosing the animal with very high potency every 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. And at least 4 or 5 doses, and you are on top and you wait, and you see what's going on. And if it is a high dose, I would even if the animal is not vomiting and is reacting well, it's always good to have the vets at hand,
Absolutely.
in case they need the stomach being pumped out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's something that we definitely want to stress is, if it is something that's very toxic that your animal got into, grab your remedy, head for the vet, or call the vet if it's a big animal and you can't bring them to the vet, and make sure that the vet is involved, because it's not anything that you want to risk. Or a lot of times the vet's going to get there and be like, why'd you call me? Which is the best news we could possibly get as homeopaths. We love to hear that. And some animals will eat things. Dogs are famous for it. Now, granted, if it's a dog that surfs the counter, as you were saying, likes to jump up and eat everything on the counter that exists, some animals will get into packaging and they'll eat the plastic and the boxes and everything. If that's the case, get them to the vet, because that is not something you want to wait and see if the remedy is going to clear it for them. If they have something in their system that is a true blockage, something that could create a blockage, then you absolutely want to get them to the vet. But arsenicum is something you want at the top of your toolbox for sure. So the next
and sometimes it's not even blockage. I had a case of an animal that was very sick and kept on vomiting, and I gave quite a few remedies, and it would improve a little bit and the condition would return. And I said, at some point, I need this animal checked. Guess what? He had chewed like a month before a ball, a plastic ball.
Yeah.
And had swollen a piece of plastic that it was lodged in the stomach.
Yeah.
And was making him vomit. And of course, no matter, it had to be operated and the plastic had to be removed. But no matter how many remedies, there is a maintaining cause that needs, and it won't go up or down. So.
Right. If it's stuck, it's stuck and it needs to
Yeah.
be removed. Yeah, for sure. So the next remedy that we wanted to talk about was Bryonia. I continue to be amazed. Every single time we talk about these different remedies, we've talked about Arsenicum, we've talked about Bryonia, we've talked about some of these other ones that we're covering today. And once again, here's another remarkable thing that these remedies do. And the polycrests are just, I don't like to call them miracles because they're not. They really have a capacity to match the symptom picture on so many levels. And here's another great example. So Dr. Alex and I were talking about the different remedies last night, and she said it's all about the vomiting bile in the morning. So tell me a little bit more about that. Expand on that for me, Alex.
So the picture is so what do you say, so illustrative. The vomit of Bryonia.
Yes, very illustrative for sure.
All you have to do is to look at that.
Yeah.
So the vomit is usually very yellow or just simply bile, so clear and yellow or green. And the animal will be first of all, will be quite irritable, doesn't want to be messed about. So and anything that includes motion, being walking, even the motion of the head will make them more nauseous.
Yeah.
So motion extremely aggravates the nausea. So all they want is to be tucked away as far from people or as far from other animals as possible, not to move at all and leave me alone. That will be the picture. And if you try to interfere, they can really snap back. The other thing that will confirm Bryonia for sure is if they are very thirsty. So you will only see them. It will not be like Arsenicum. They will not be at the bowl or at the trough all the time. But the Bryonia thirst is big quantities over with long periods, intervals.
They'll drain the whole bucket.
Yeah,
absolutely. And like you said, with the bile and the crankiness, and they're going to disappear. And this kind of goes back to one of our other videos where we talked about how to dose the animals, how to get the remedies into them. And when they're in a Bryonia state, people think there's no way I'm going to be able to get near my animal, especially a pig, if you're dealing with a pig. And this is where we talk about the mucous membranes and using a spray bottle to keep yourself safe, if that's
and
the
water.
Case. And in water, putting in water. Yeah. Put it in, and you can put it in their trough if you think that they're going to drink. If you see them drinking, put it in their trough. Dissolve it in a little bit of water first, and then pour that into the trough is usually what I encourage people to do, because otherwise you just get a bunch of pellets sitting at the bottom of the trough. And if you have a lot of animals, in some of the old farm books that I read about homeopathy that were written in the 1800s, they say if you're treating a number of animals, then increase how many pellets you're putting in the water. It doesn't have to be 100 by any means, for 10 animals or what have you. But instead of putting 2 or 3, put in, 6, 8, or 10 or whatever, depending on how many animals that you have and how much the volume of the water is that you're putting it in. But I've treated pigs before, even baby pigs that have gotten very sick, and they're a challenge. They're all muscle, and boy, can they move. And they are just a force to be reckoned with when they don't want to be touched and they want to be hiding away, and they're climbing under every other animal in the pen or in the, in the stall. Yeah, it takes a really skilled farmer to get their hands on a pig for sure. So the next one we wanted to talk about was Cocculus. And boy, what a great remedy to keep in the car. How many dogs do we know that hang their heads out of their car? Like all of them do it, but you wonder, are they doing it because they don't feel well? Or with Cocculus, would you find them kind of tucked away? What's the picture like with this?
Well, with the Cocculus, usually, they sit and they don't move much. And in the middle of the trip, you hear your lovely sound and everything comes out. Because it's really
unpleasant for everyone.
It's the traveling is the motion of the car or of the boat or of the wherever they are.
Yeah,
and
whatever they're on.
I can relate because we
were just talking about that. Yeah, car sickness.
I am horrible in cars. I need to be driving on it's a disaster on in the front.
And maybe this is why you see a lot of dogs jumping for the front seat when you put them in the car. I traveled across country with a cat. Actually, I've done it a few times, and there are some cats that will wedge themselves up under the seats and they'll groan and throw up the entire time, which is fabulous. And then there are other cats that will lay on the dashboard of the car and just take it all in. It's like, okay, clearly they don't need Cocculus, but the ones that are getting really sick and miserable and howling and so on and so forth, I think.
Yeah, and it will, and it, as you say, it won't happen once, it will keep on happening. And when I was young, my father would make me travel with the head outside of the window, and I kept throwing up all the way through. It wouldn't
my gosh.
And it came to a point that you wouldn't even stop for me to throw up, as long as my head was outside
of the window,
it would go out.
Yeah,
it just kept on driving.
I think about all of the years that we both went without homeopathy, and what a difference it would have been to have. I know. And you think now, oh, if only I'd had that remedy. And if you're going to be traveling with animals and you don't know how they travel, even if normally you hop in the car and you go to the store with the dog, but let's say you decide to go on a road trip and it's going to take a couple of days, make sure you have Cocculus in the car with you, because you don't know how they're going to handle a long trip. And I wonder about farm animals too. They get hauled around this time of year for fairs and that sort of thing. If you're seeing animals that are really struggling with motion, then make sure you have some Cocculus to toss it in their trough or in their bucket. And the salivation is usually a pretty clear indication that you're going to want to get that into them. So the next remedy is Ipecac. I don't know about you, but I remember this as the remedy. It wasn't a remedy. It was the liquid that they would use when we were little if they wanted us to throw up. And it's just the most horrific thing. So when I found out there was a remedy of it, I was just thrilled. 20 years ago, it's like, oh, this is so much better than drinking that nasty stuff that they make, people throw up with. So the nausea is really intense and constant. And they seem to have no relief from the vomiting. And of course, the whiteness, the mucus, the watery, lots of different colors. Undigested food is another piece of this. Copious quantities and cutting or colicky abdominal pains and loss of appetite. So how would you, with colic, what would you see, Alex, with regard to a domestic animal? What would that look like? I know what it looks like in a horse, but what would it look like in another domestic animal?
Well, they will look extremely uncomfortable, and they will curl up or stretch out depending, what offers them relief, but you will definitely see that the animal is in discomfort. And usually the pain, when it's abdominal pains, it comes in paroxysm, so they might be exerting, curling up and moving about, trying to compensate for a while, and then they will have a restful period, and then on again, and then off again. This is a very important remedy I have used in numerous of times when it comes to parvo.
Oh,
Yeah, it's, again, if you have small pups, or if you are a breeder, or if there is a danger that they can get parvovirus, or you don't want to vaccinate, and because parvo can kill very quickly a pup, but on adults it's much easier to handle, because the puppies will start throwing up non-stop, and they will die of dehydration.
Yeah.
So that's the big, so this is the remedy to go to, because it will help to stop the vomiting in these tracks. So if you have all the symptoms of parvo and the vomiting non-stop, this is the remedy that you have to go. And again, if it is parvos, every 10 minutes, every 15 minutes.
Very frequent
Very
dosing.
high
Yes.
frequency.
High and often.
High and often. And if you don't have a high potency, doesn't matter. Use what you have.
Yeah. And do it often.
And do it often.
And this is another remedy that talks about chemicals or detergents being ingested. So if you're not seeing results with the arsenicum, look at the Ipecac picture. Obviously you want to have a solid understanding of the remedy that you're administering, but keep in mind that there are alternatives too when it comes to things like chemicals or detergents or what have you. And when you think about the original substance of Ipecac, when you would ingest something that was toxic and they needed you to get it out right away as a purgative, then they would go to Ipecac. So something important to keep in mind if that ever happens.
Yeah, and the other thing with the chemicals is actually you don't want the animals to keep on throwing up, because the chemical burn to get down, and it will keep burning to get out again.
Yeah.
So what you do with any type of chemical poisoning is the remedy in high frequency, whatever you have, whatever is indicated, either Ipecac or Arsenicum or any of the other remedies, and tons and tons of activated charcoal to line and neutralize the chemicals. If it is an acid, you look into baking into soda bicarbonate,
baking soda
to neutralize. If it is something alkaline, tons of activated charcoal, and where it can be applied, but of course it's very difficult unless you have the tinctures, is ginger as well. It's a great detox even for chemical poisoning.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. A wonderful thing to have on hand, and it's very strong and it works very, very well. So another remedy that we wanted to talk about was Kreosotum. And I just had to put this puppy in here because he was so cute and he looked so sad after throwing up. And it's probably not a great capture of the severity of Kreosotum with the burning in the stomach and the gnawing and ulcerative pain in the stomach. And it's hard to know. They can't tell you that, but you can see a shift if they do eat, if they throw up and then they eat and they look a little better and then they're back at it again. helpful for vomiting of undigested food occurring many hours after eating. So it's not a case where I have a cat who, if he eats just 2 extra pieces, that's all it takes, and it's right back out again. But this would be for hours after. So it's sitting there. It's not really being digested. It's not going through. And that's where Kreosotum would be very effective to help with that. And vomiting blood. Obviously, with any of these conditions, if anything is severe, yes, start using the remedies. Call the vet. Bring the animal to the vet. If it's an option, call the vet, ask them to come out straight away, get some insight on that. And homeopathy works amazing alongside the other modalities, along the other treatments, along with the other treatments. So keep that in mind. Don't stop. Keep doing what is indicated, and get additional support. Tell me a little bit about Kreosotum and your experience, Alex.
Apart from the cases where, especially with dogs, that I feed them only once a day after 1 year old. These are the cases that you fed them the previous day, and then 24 hours later, you arrive at home, or suddenly they start throwing up the dinner, the food of the previous day. As they ate it, you can see all the pieces. It's totally undigested. So that's the remedy that you go to.
This is a clear indication.
Yeah, but in case of vomiting, of course, there is other symptoms that Kreosotum has as keynotes, especially because it is a very acrid remedy. So whatever discharges the animal will have, they will be very excoriating, no matter what outlet. You can see as well the teeth. The teeth are crumbling because of the type of saliva. It's not that they have a lot of holes, but they will be dark. It's like rotten teeth,
It's like the enamel has been destroyed because of the saliva. I mean, that's what really does the damage to our teeth.
Yeah, exactly. So the teeth are crumbling. So, but it is more in a constitutional type of, the dog is chronically sick, and of course, this is in a Kreosotum state for over a long period of time. So the teeth start going. It will not happen in an acute case when they stop eating when they vomit.
Right. Yeah, you don't need to worry about that. So the next remedy we wanted to touch on, which probably anybody that's used homeopathy is very familiar with Nux Vomica. It's so useful in so many ways when it comes to digestion and the spasmodic vomiting coupled with marked retching. And I think we've all heard our animals, when they start retching, there's no question what's going on. And the vomit could be green, oily, greasy, or of undigested food, much like Kreosotum, but it's more likely to be more fresh, more recent that they have eaten. Stomach pains being present that get better after vomiting. So you see improvement after they've vomited, and it's important to look for the bright red blood in their stool. Nux Vomica is fantastic it's one of those remedies for overindulging. So if you have an animal that got up on the counter, mine got into the chicken today because I forgot to put it away fast enough. If they've just gorged themselves on something, Nux Vomica is a fantastic remedy to reach for. It's overindulging, and the symptoms that follow from overindulging. The Nux Vomica mind picture, what do you see with that when somebody is sick like this, with an affliction like this?
Also very irritable.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they don't want to be
They're cranky.
much and cranky, and but the main thing for Nux is the fact that you will see the spasms. The vomit will come with massive retching, massive spasms.
Mhm.
And if there is diarrhea, the dogs and the cats, they will stay in the position for a long time, because that is an indication that although they passed stool, they have the feeling that they are not done yet.
Yeah, there's more
So
coming.
they will stay in the position for quite a long time. So yeah, there will be a lot of tenesmus with Nux Vomica, a lot of spasms.
Okay.
Throughout the whole GTI system.
Mm-hmm. And then the one remedy that came to mind as I was pulling all of these remedies together today was China. This has rescued many of us after being sick. The debility from exhausting discharges, from vomiting and diarrhea, the loss of fluids, dehydration, and just the exhaustion that happens, the energy that you have to put out when you experience vomiting and diarrhea. I think about, there's so many people that I've talked to over the years that say, oh, I will do anything not to vomit. And I wonder if that's the case with animals too, or if they just let it go. But I guess it depends, because some people don't have any issue with it. I can't imagine that there are animals out there that are exactly the same. And there is a depletion that happens, though. There's a great force that is experienced when you vomit, and the China really brings you back. I've experienced it personally. We recently treated a sheep, you and I did, that had severe diarrhea and was very, very sick. And with, I think, 2 or 3 doses of China, we saw the shift happen very quickly with this poor sheep that was just wiped out after being sick. The owner didn't know how long it had been that way when she went out into the field and found it in one of the shelters. And I said, start with China. And I will say, when you go to the health food store, it depends on what brand you buy, whether they call it China or Cinchona. So just keep in mind that it is the same remedy, and that's important to know. And it's another one of those remedies where you want to repeat it. It's not a one and done kind of thing. You want to repeat it until you see them pink back up again and start to come to life, and they're able to take in fluids and have some energy and things of that nature. Alex, what has your experience been with the mindset of China?
Frustration, debility.
Yeah. They're just wiped out.
Exhaustion. Yeah.
And it's wonderful to see how quickly people respond to this, and animals respond to it too. So we hope that this was useful and helpful. I think it's something that everybody experiences as an animal owner, and just a few more colorful pictures, thinking about, what we see as we deal with our farm animals and our pets and companions and that sort of thing, and the many different shades of this. If we work with you on a case, we will often ask you, what color? What's the consistency? Is it foamy? Is it chunky? Is it liquid? Is it mucus? you know,
Is
a
there
lot of
blood?
is right. Is there any color to it? What color is it? What shape is the food in? Like, did they chew it at all? There are so many components that feed into the different remedies that we will recommend.
What's the smell?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because there are some vomits, okay. Vomit doesn't smell like perfume, but
Right.
some vomits they smell like ammonia. Others vomits they smell like rotten eggs. Other vomits smell like putrid. So yeah, the smell we will ask. We will not ask the taste though. I think that's about the only thing we will not ask.
It's true. It's true, but we do ask a lot of questions, and if you haven't used homeopathy before, you're usually like, what do you mean? I just threw up. I need a remedy. It's like, okay, well, tell me more. What does it look like? What did it taste like? Blah, blah, blah. So there are a lot of questions. And if you are having this show up with one of your animals frequently, and you post on the group, which we hope that you will, please take that into consideration and make sure that you share as much detail as you can. And we're happy to respond and give you some suggestions on what you can use. If it is a chronic issue and you're seeing this often with any other health issues or just this in general, please reach out. You can book an appointment. We do have a discovery call where we offer a free 15-minute getting to know you and understand how Dr. Alex and I work and what we offer to our clients. And we look forward to hearing from everybody. We hope that you enjoy the day. And thanks, Dr. Alex, for all of your wisdom, sharing all of your knowledge. And next week, who knows? Maybe next week it will be something less colorful. We'll see.
Less smelly.
Yes, exactly.
But
thank you, everyone.
we can encourage our members to let
Yes.
us know
If there's something they'd like to hear about.
exactly.
Yeah, please let us know. Put some suggestions in the comments. Let us know if there's a condition or an issue that might be universal for, a variety of different types of animals that you would like us to expand on and share some remedies for. Thanks, everyone. Great to see you.
Bye.
Bye.